Hello, everybody. What is up? And welcome into night one of two, a double feature, if you will, for two iterations of Dynasty 365. With me tonight, of course, I have the crew of Drew Scott and Justin Taylor. Tonight, we are going to be running through our second mock of the offseason after doing one at the end of last week to get a feel for these rookies as a whole. Tonight, though, we have a little twist for you all. 4 round, 1 QB, tight end premium, a bit old school, if you will, with the 1 QB format. We're going through all of that as we try to switch up formats and versions for the mocks. If you're watching live on YouTube right now, the best way you can support us here at Fantasy and Frames is by dropping a like, dropping a subscribe. We greatly appreciate the support as always. But if you want to go even further and support our other work, please head over to fantasyandframes.com to find all of our latest amazing article content. This time of year, we have breakdowns for all positions, offensive, defensive, whether you're looking for stuff from an IDP perspective, redraft, and or dynasty perspective. We have it all. And lastly, if you're looking for rankings, our first batch of rankings are on our site from myself, JT, Joe Harlow, Drew Scott, and of course the boss man himself, Jorge Edwards. And then right after that, we combine those rankings for a nice, clean, sleek consensus. So, gentlemen, without further ado, shall we just get into things tonight?
Yeah, let me talk a little bit just briefly before we get the draft started. So we're doing this as a new kind of thing for everybody that isn't paying attention. We have our normal 365 show, but we're doing these mock draft shows too, and we're trying to do a little bit of different format every week just so we can get people a feel. Like, I know I had some people, I said 1 QB tight end premium this week. People were like, 1 QB? Oh my God, is this 1995?
Old school.
So we're going old school because I do know people still in 1 QB leagues. Also, if you play IDP, in a ton of my IDP leagues are 1 QB. So this is a good look. Even if you're an IDP, we're not drafting defensive guys on this draft. We'll do that on Shoot the Gap. But this is a good idea to see where the offensive guys are falling if you're in a 1 QB IDP league. Look where those offensive guys are going, kind of get a feel. And then you can, from there, go, okay, I'm going to fit my IDP guys in. This is where QBs are kind of going. You can kind of get a little bit of a feel. So just because you're not in a league that's exactly like these settings, you can get good feelings from kind of where things are going. So it doesn't necessarily have to be exactly like your league, but that's what we're trying to do as we go. If you missed last week's show, go back, check it out. Superflex tight end premium 1.5 on the tight end premium there on a Superflex. So if you want to look at how Superflex looked, go check that out. We're going to be doing different ones here as we lead up to the draft. And then post-draft, you want to come back because we're going to be redrafting all these same formats again once we know where everyone's landed.
Yeah. Drew, when we get into things here, you have the number one overall pick, so you're going to lead us off.
Yeah, man. I was so excited for the draft because my main home dynasty league, it's still a one quarterback league.
Main one.
I'm one of those folks that's still stuck in 1995 playing in a one quarterback league. Before I make my pick, I think we all know what the pick's going to be, so it's not like there's going to be
no drama.
There's not going to be much drama here. But before I make my pick, I want to show some love to the chat. Philip, what's up, man? Appreciate you hanging out with us. Jamie, JT gets a special shout out from Jamie, and then includes us in there as well. What's up, Jamie? Appreciate you having us in. And then Brandon. I don't know if there's any substance in that drinking water as well, but I'm not sure if how much you'd want to trade away from Tyreek Hill, but Jalen Waddle sure would look good in that offense though. But we'll see if there's anything to that. But now that we got that out of the way, guys in the chat, appreciate you hanging out with us. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the rookie mock tonight. Look, the 101 in a superflex, I feel like, is pretty clear. So once you take out the superflex aspect of it, it becomes enormously clear that Jeremiah Love should be the first player off the board. Will be the guy that I take here once we actually start the draft. And once we get it started, I'll make the pick and all that. But before we get there, I mean, with Jeremiah Love, it's just really solid workhorse running backs are hard to come by, right? And he profiles like that's going to be the case, and then some. So let me make this pick real quick so I don't make a rookie mistake of timing out.
Drew, as you're making the pick, this
Yeah.
reminds me of the year. Like some people are like, okay, does it matter where Jeremiah Love goes? I don't think it
No.
does to me. I think he's the number one no matter what. To me, it reminds me of when Jonathan Taylor went in the second round of the Colts. I was still 101 for him no matter what, even though he went in the second round. To me, I thought it was a clear cut number one pick. Now, some people jumped on Clyde Edwards-Helaire that year just because he went in the first round to the Chiefs. But to me, I don't think the landing spot matters to me. I think Love's the 101 no matter what.
Yeah, to me, the thing that matters most is that he gets that first round draft capital that we're expecting. If for some reason he slid to the second, I don't see any world where that happens. Then maybe we have to relook at it. But I mean, he's got about as clean of a profile as you can hope for. He's got the size. He's an early declare. He had over 1,300 total yards by his second year in college. So he has that early career production. He didn't need to be a junior or a senior to start dominating. Career 6.6 yards per carry, career 9.6 yards per reception, career 1.6 yards per route run. Like, I mean, there's really not a red flag when you look at this guy. He has everything that you could look for from an analytical profile. He's got the production, and he should get the draft capital. And so the landing spot does not really matter to me. I mean, he's being projected to, at worst, top 15 in the NFL draft. And if you're going to invest that kind of capital in a running back, the production and the work is going to follow. And so, yeah, I think one quarterback, super flex. I completely agree with California in the comments that it doesn't matter what format you're in. Jeremiah Love is the one-on-one this year.
Yeah, Love to me is to many people, is a special prospect. I think about on the spectrum of some of the best RB prospects that we've seen in quite some time. I think he's slightly below Bijan Robinson, but slightly above Ashton Gianti, if that makes sense. So I think he's like right there in between those two on that spectrum of special prospects.
So let me ask you guys this thing, because that brings up a really interesting point that I wanted to discuss. Like, it's pretty clear where Jeremiah Love sits in the rookie rankings, right? But once, and I know we might not have a for sure answer on this right this moment because we don't know where the landing spot's going to be. But once he does officially get drafted, as far as Dynasty startup rankings go, we're talking about where he needs to fit with the rest of the running backs. Is he like a guaranteed top 5 running back for you guys? Top 3? Where do you see him slotting in your Dynasty startup rankings once everything's said and done?
Assuming he gets the phenomenal landing spot, let's say he goes to the Saints cut and move on from Alvin Kamara. He gets all the carries there. The Chiefs finally move on from the inefficient duo of Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco. He gets all the electric carries there. I'd probably have him at RB. Like, I could get him as high as RB 4 or 5 for sure. I know that might sound a little crazy off the bat, top 5, but I
don't think so.
I think right at the back end, rounding out the top 5 is right there with my thought.
I know for sure I'll have Bijan and Gibbs in front of him. After that, I think you can make an argument. Like, maybe I still have him behind Genty. I don't know, but I don't think top 5 is crazy.
Yeah, I think he's in that mix. I still think JT is up there. He's getting a little bit older. I still think he's in that mix. Age-wise, for Dynasty long-term, you're probably putting JT and Love up ahead of him. If I'm someone who's like, I really only care about the next 2 years, 3 years, I maybe would take JT over them. But it's in that mix. I definitely think he's got to be considered in that top 5 running back, especially when some of the guys that we've seen in that area the last couple of years have kind of fallen off a little bit. Breece Hall was the guy everybody kind of had in there. Now we don't know what's only going to happen with him, with the Jets and everything else.
God, I hope
so I think a little bit, you just got to, A-Chain, everybody's moving on. Do you love A-Chain? Can he keep it up with a new coach? So I think there's a lot of question marks around a lot of other guys that allows room for Love to kind of squeeze in there.
Yeah, and that was California had that thought as well, that A-Chan needs to be in that discussion as well. And I mean, I agree. It is a little scary with some of the unknown around that organization right now, not knowing what the offense is going to look like, who's going to be playing quarterback, that kind of thing. And the reality is this new coaching staff coming in, they don't have any direct ties to A-Chan. Now, he's proven himself to where you would think he would still be, priority number 1 in that offense. But there is just at least a little bit of question mark and gray area in there right now. But
I think the debate lies with Barrett Hampton. Like, I think that's the line right there between the two, if you will.
Yeah, that's a good one too. If this was a super flex draft, I think we would have expected Fernando Mendoza to go off the board around
For
this
sure.
time. But since it's one quarterback, I would expect some wide receivers to start to come off the board here. Carnell Tate went 102. Is that if you guys were picking at the 102, would that be the wide receiver that you would have going off the board here, or do you guys have a different wide receiver one?
I think it's going to be a big mix of the top three. I think Tate, Tyson, Lemon, and it's really going to depend on, I think, landing spot for these guys for a lot of people, because I think they're all kind of in the same area. For me personally, if you look at my rankings right now, I actually have it Lemon, Tate, Tyson as my three. I love Makai Lemon. I watched him live against Illinois this year, and dude, he just was a difference maker on the field. I know he's not big, but the guy can make a ton of plays. He's also bigger than Jordan Addison, so it's not like super small. So I like Lemon. If he gets a decent landing spot, man, I really like him. Selfishly, as a Steelers fan, I would love to get him to 1 to 21. I don't think there's any way it happens. But I absolutely think he would be perfect to fit in there next to DK, because that's the kind of guy that they were missing last year on that type of team. But Lemon, he's one of those guys, even if he ends up in a bad landing spot, I think I'm still going to be on him, because I've convinced myself over the last couple of years, I want the talented guy over the landing spot. And the couple times that I skipped a guy that I really liked pre-draft, and then I downgraded him because of landing spot, it bit me in the ass hardcore that I didn't take that guy because I was worried about the team he went on. So I think I'm probably on Lemon no matter what, though I do really like Tate and Tyson a lot. I think it's going to be a huge debate all the way up to the draft and even after the draft on where those three guys go in that order.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be really interesting for me. So, it seems pretty clear Tate, Tyson, Lemon, that's the top three receivers. But those three guys, because of the top three receivers, are likely to go a little bit earlier in the draft, which is setting up some potential landing spot sweeteners for guys like Denzel Boston or Casey Concepcion. They're projected to go later in the first round, and it's going to be
I know
really
a team
interesting.
that needs a wide receiver.
Yeah, I've seen Denzel Boston mock to a certain team up there in Buffalo, New York, a few times. And so it's going to be really, really interesting for me. I want to watch and see if the fantasy community as a whole, let's say Makai Lemon lands in like Cleveland or somewhere that's not very desirable right now. And then you have Denzel Boston. He goes later in the first round, but he lands in Buffalo. Now, does the fantasy community flip get too sweet on the landing spot and factor that more than they do the talent of the player, and then Boston ends up jumping whichever of the top three receivers doesn't have as desirable of a landing spot. So that's something post draft I'm really interested in keeping an eye on, because we've seen guys that have better landing spots, but they weren't. I'll give you a perfect example. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I hated Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I don't want to say hate, but there was 5 big running backs in that class, and I had him as the clear running back 5 pre-draft. And then he landed in Kansas City, obviously first round draft capital, and I shot him up my rookie running back rankings because of that. And I ignored the pre-draft concerns I had after the landing spot. That was a hard lesson for me. I had to learn a lesson there. But it'd be interesting to see if something like that ends up happening, as we get into the actual draft.
That's a good one.
Okay, so we're through the first round. Aiden, you want to recap that before we move on?
So I'll recap quick and then field you guys with some questions if that's okay. So at 101 we have Jeremiah Love, running back Notre Dame. At 102 we have Carnell Tate, wide receiver Ohio State. At 103 we have Jordan Tyson. At 104 we have Makai Lemon, very elite slot receiver from USC. At 105 we have Jonah Coleman, workhorse running back from the University of Washington. At 106, we have Denzel Boston, who we were just talking about with the landing spot versus talent debate. At 107, we have Emmett Johnson. At 108, we have Casey Concepcion. At 109, in that tight end premium, we have Kenyon Sadiq. At 110, another tight end premium favorite, back-to-back, Eli Stowers. At 111, we have Chris Bell. And then before we get to Drew's second pick, rounding us out, we have Jadarian Price, which, like, by the way, is crazy that he had the production he had right behind Jeremiah Love at Notre Dame at 112. Drew, I want to start with you. Is there anybody that you look at that fell to the back end of the first round that you look at as a true value in this rookie mock?
Well, I guess, I mean, if I had to pick one, it would probably be JT selection at the 110 with Stowers. I have him as my tight end one right now over Sadiq. Now, once the NFL draft happens, I might have to pivot if he does get much worse draft capital. I don't know how far apart they're going to be, but it's just as far as prospects, whenever you look at it, as far as Stowers goes compared to Sadiq, his best receiving yard season is better. His yards per route run is much better. His yards per reception is higher across his college career. His profile looks much more like an elite pass catching tight end for fantasy purposes than Sadiq does. Now, I know that there's some underlying stuff with Sadiq that plays into that somewhat, and there's some context that needs to be filled in there that we can get into at another time. But they're close enough from that aspect that I actually prefer Stowers. So if you could get him later, especially in a tight end premium draft, you can get him in the back end of the first round. I love that pick.
Yeah. Can I throw out a value just while we're here?
Absolutely. I'm
looking at Casey Concepcion, wide receiver from Texas A&M. What do you go? 107? Do I have
108? 108.
Sorry, 108. I would have taken him as early as 105. Personally, where Jonah Coleman went, I get Jonah Coleman has the chance to be a workhorse running back in the NFL, but I am falling in love with the shiftiness and running back ability in terms of shiftiness and route running with the ball in his hands of Concepcion. He's very versatile too, right? He can run routes from the backfield. He can get screens. He can line up out wide. He can line up in the slot. So he's very versatile. So JT, over to you. If you want to touch on Concepcion, you can. But on the flip side of what I asked Drew, is there anyone that in your purview per se, you wouldn't have taken as high? So anyone, let's frame it like this. Anyone that was a bit of a reach in this first round, if you will, in your eyes.
I'm not sure if they're a huge reach, but two guys that I am just not totally in on yet. I'm gonna have to work on it. Denzel Boston, I don't love, and I don't love Emmett Johnson. Those are two guys I'm probably lower in consensus on currently in the draft. So for me, I would have taken Conception over both of those guys. I would have taken Sadiq over both those guys. I would have taken Sowers over both those guys, and I would have taken Price over those guys. I appreciate what Drew said about Sowers. I love Sowers. I just watched him play a ton this year. I think I am going to be taking him at the end of drafts. Anytime I'm a late first rounder, he is going to be a guy I'm all over. I would have considered taking Mendoza if I'm on a team where I have one QB and I'm like real desperate, or my second QB is like really old. Say I'm playing I'm trying to think of a good example. Say I have like a Stafford and an Aaron Rodgers and maybe another young guy. Maybe I have a Cam Ward. Maybe I would take a Mendoza there. Just go, okay, like in Cam Ward doesn't work out, I'll take a shot with both those guys since I have two older QBs. If I'm not in desperation, I'm probably letting QB fall here, to be honest with you. If Mendoza goes to the Raiders, I don't love that landing spot for him. I think he can be good. I just don't love him overall personally. So even in Superflex, he's dropping a little bit for me. So for me at this point, instead of going him, I'd rather take Stowers in a 1.5 tight end premium, 1 QB league. The other guy I was considering taking over Stowers was Price. Price at 112, I think is really nice. To me, Price is RB2, RB3 with Coleman. So getting him at the last pick of the first round, I really like that. That was the other guy I was considering taking other than Stowers was Price.
Yep, great points by everyone. So, Drew, if you wanted to talk us through and kick us off with the second round.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a guy that I'm going to take here at the 201 that sounded like Chris Collinsworth. No, here's a guy.
201.
He's been a riser in the Dynasty community recently for sure, but I think that there's good reason for it. Whenever you look at Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana. He has one of those receivers that are projected to be like second round, maybe late first round, like, second round NFL draft picks. He has one of the cleaner profiles. I mean, he's an early declare. He's got good enough size. I mean, 6 foot, over 200 pounds. So it's not, he's not gigantic, but he's not a tiny guy either. He was an early producer. He was over 500 yards by his second year. He had 7 touchdowns by his second year, and then a career 2.47 yards per route run and 0.110 first downs per route run. So pretty clean across the board. And he's a really fun player to watch. He's great, with yards after the catch. He's good at finding open space. A guy that I'm very, very interested in, and I'm hoping for some solid draft capital right now. Whenever I look at my personal rankings, he is my 8th overall player in one quarterback league. So if I can get him at 13 overall, sign me up. Absolutely.
Great point. I want to ask you just a question about Cooper real quick, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So I look at the 2 Indiana receivers. This is going to be brought up a lot. Elijah Surratt versus Omar Cooper Jr. specifically. 2 completely different players, right? Cooper is as explosive as hell, as explosive as can be down the field. And then you juxtapose that to Elijah Surratt, who is the pristine route runner through the middle of the field and the true chain mover. But it sounds like you're taking the explosiveness and upside with Omar Cooper.
They're literally back to back. I've got him wide receiver 6, wide receiver 7,
yeah.
and they're in the same tier. So I'm not going to argue with anybody too much if they want to tell me that they prefer Surratt over Cooper. Once
there
you get
go,
out
he went.
that, yeah, and I think that's how it should be. I think they should be back to back. I would take both of them over Chris Bell as well. But so personally for me, once those top 5, what's kind of been turned into the consensus top 5 receivers come off the board, I think the 2 Indiana guys should be next in whatever order you want them to be in. And once we get the draft capital and landing spots for those guys, I would not be shocked.
They could flip,
yeah. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see him flip, because I talked about Omar Cooper's clean profile. Elijah Surratt's got a really clean one as well. I mean, he's got the good size. He had early production. He had over 600 receiving yards in his first year, 13 touchdowns in his first year, over 2.56 yards per route run, 0.125 first downs per route run. Like, he has a really great profile as well. And so it's really just, pick your flavor on the 2 different types of receivers. But I think they're both really close, and I wouldn't fight you one way or the other.
Yeah, Drew, I'm a Cooper over Surratt guy. Personally, I just like how his game transitions to the next level on the right team. I mean, Surratt was kind of like, he was Mendoza's like safety blanket. Cooper was kind of more of a big play guy. I mean, he didn't get a ton of opportunities, but when he did, man, he made some impressive catches at huge times. I just like Cooper at the next level. I think he can be a really good player. I saw someone kind of a little bit say, hey, he kind of reminds me of Deebo Samuel. And I'm like, oh, I can see that. I can see that kind of makeup with his body type and stuff. I like Cooper a lot. He's a guy that if I miss out on Stowers at the end of the first round, or I'm in desperate need of wideout over tight end, say I'm loaded at tight end, Cooper's a guy I'm definitely going to target at the end of the first round. If he gets to me in the second round, I'm going to be super excited. If I have like the 2-1, 2-2, 2-3, and he gets to me, I'm going to be pumped about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Branch is a really tough one. It's just the route tree isn't what you would want it to be. It's going to be.
I think he's overhyped personally, but
he's probably it's going to get complicated because he's probably going to get decent draft capital because the NFL is probably going to love him more than fantasy analysts do, just with the with what he presents as an overall player. But he worries me a little bit.
Can I just say this about him quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think if you're looking for nuance and technique and high football IQ when someone's route running, throw that out the window. Zachariah Branch is not your guy for that at all. I worry because of that. This might sound harsh, guys. I worry that Branch will never be more than just a glorified, unpolished gadget guy at the next level.
Here's how I kind of see him
wins.
I was gonna say how I see him real quick is I compare him to a little bit of Tyreek Hill type without being able to beat guys deep. Like
not as good
he's the gadget guy who you can get touches, manufacturer. He can make plays. If you're in a league with special teams points, like I'm in a bunch of my IDP leagues, all have special team points. I like him a lot more in that type of league because as a kicker punt returner, I think he adds value there. The problem for him is he's going to need manufactured touches, short yards. He's going to have to break plays. For a guy as fast as he is, it's insane how not good he is going down the field. It's really wild. So that's why I say he's Tyreek Hill without being able to beat people deep and catch the ball because he is really athletic. He is really good. I think if he gets on the right type of team that uses him like they used Tyreek Hill in Kansas City his rookie year, I think you're going to be delightfully surprised, right? Because he's going to get you kick return, punt return yards. They're going to give him some handoffs. They're going to get him some screens. But I don't think he turns into that player without a lot of work. I just don't know if he can turn into that deep ball guy that makes the catch down the field and tracks the ball and all that. We just haven't seen it in college.
Yeah, no, I mean he's definitely going to need to land in a favorable offensive environment for sure. An offensive scheme that we can have some kind of faith in that they're going to use him correctly. He is a very specific type of player, and so he's a really tough one. He's one that I struggle with. I mean, as far as where I have him at, I've got him down right now at wide receiver 12. So there's still a couple receivers on the board that I would take over him. So, I'm probably going to end up being below consensus on him. We'll see how that changes after the draft, but pre-draft, he's just not like, if I'm trying to find guys I want to take a shot on, he's just not one that I typically would be pulling the trigger on.
He's pretty underwhelming metrically once you dive into it.
Yeah. I know this is a one quarterback draft, so I was curious to see where Mendoza went off the board. Now, honestly, I think that this is the right spot. Once the two Indiana receivers comes off the board, I think that's probably about when Mendoza should come off. And I know, JT, I know you said you wouldn't be the biggest fan if he does end up in Vegas like everyone's expecting. I honestly, I'm not mad about it at all. They definitely need to improve the offensive line. They're going to have to be able to give this guy some time to throw so he doesn't get killed. But, whenever you look at the head coaching hire is exciting. Brock Bowers as a weapon is exciting. Ashton Genty as a weapon is exciting. Hopefully they will continue to build around that and give him even more weapons. And I think Mendoza is the real deal. I think he's legit as a passer. And then I think his athleticism is a little bit underrated. I mean, he's not going to blow you away as a runner. He's not going to be Jaden Daniels or Lamar Jackson, but he's not a statue either. But just his pinpoint accuracy, man, how good he is downfield. Like he just has so many traits that translate really well to the NFL to where it's hard for me to see him not hit. Maybe he doesn't turn into a superstar, but I also don't think he's going to be a complete whiff either. And I think with the coaching staff the coaching hires that they were making, things like that, I think things are heading in the right direction there. So I thought in a one quarterback draft, that was a pretty good spot for Mendoza.
Yeah, I like 2-3. I was talking about this just pre-show. Like last couple of years, one QB drafts kind of get people a feeling where some guys have gone in my leagues. Anthony Richardson, because the rushing upside, he went from 1-2 to 1-5 in a bunch of my leagues. Caleb Williams in one QB leagues was going like 1-6 to 1-9 in a lot of leagues. And so I think late first, early second for Mendoza is a good spot. I like Bowers there. I think he's got a good head on his shoulders if he can keep it together, get decent people around him. I'm worried about the O-line with the Raiders. If they can add some other weapons around and just do some, I mean, the O-line doesn't have to be amazing. It just got to be somewhat better. I do think Mendoza has a shot to be a pretty solid fantasy QB with a decent upside. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I could definitely see him being like early on Kirk Cousins, like early in his career, Kirk Cousins, where he's like, man, in a super flex league or something, or like you have to sit a guy and play a week, he's going to get you decent points. He's not going to crush you. Could he eventually turn into a top QB? I definitely think there's upside there. I'm slightly worried about it, to be honest with you. though I do love his accuracy. I just think he's got to get in the right system. If the right system, the right coaching, which hopefully we saw what they just did with everything that happened with Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
They can recreate that with Mendoza, who's a little less turnover prone than Darnold is.
Yeah.
I think you could have pretty good upside with him. So he's definitely, I'm not totally out on him. He's not a slam dunk early pick for me in a lot of leagues. But I tell you what, I will be taking him in leagues where I need QB, either one QB or especially Superflex. I'll be jumping on. But in a one QB league, say I won the championship and Lamar Jackson's my QB and my backup is like AR.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to maybe take Mendoza at 112. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'll take him as a nice little bet. I got time to grow with him. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. At 2-3,
No.
I don't hate it at all.
No, I've got no problem with that. I think I think he's going to project to be one of those guys where, I think that's a fair range for Trig. But Mendoza, to me, he's probably going to be one of those guys to where in most years he's probably going to be around like a back end QB1, but then he's probably going to have those spike seasons where he throws for 40, 45 touchdowns. And on those years, he'll be a top 5 fantasy quarterback, but it'll probably be like I don't think he's going to be a locked and loaded top 5 quarterback every single year.
He feels like a 12 to 18 guy most years for me. Like, I feel like he's going to be like a solid second QB on your Superflex team.
Yeah.
And a guy that, like, if you got a stud who has injury problems, like he would be a nice settled backup in a 1 QB league where like, oh, hey, if this guy gets hurt or something happens, I'm not going to get crushed if I have to play him. That's kind of where I feel like on that.
Those are all.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say those are all very fun and fair talking points from you both. Quick run through here at the second round. 201, Drew kicked us off with the very explosive Indiana receiver Omar Cooper. His counterpart at 202, completely different safety blanket skill set from Indiana, Elijah Surratt. At 203, even if it is just a 1 QB, Fernando Mendoza finally goes here. At 204, I took pure upside in Chris Barazil, Tennessee wide receiver. At 205, we got the small school guy of this draft class going high, relatively high here, in Skylar Bell from UConn. At 206, we got the first Penn State back going up the board from Kyle and Katron Allen. At 207, we just spent 10 minutes slamming him, but Zachariah Branch. At 208, another Penn State back, the second of the two, Nick Singleton. 209, getting towards the end here, we have Jeremy Bernard, the do-it-all slot receiver from Alabama. At 210, we have another primary slot receiver from Clemson in Antonio Williams. In 211, we have a good value tight end 3 in this class, at least in my opinion, in Max Clare. And then at 212, this is the sleeper in this draft class, in my opinion. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but Mike Washington Jr., running back from Arkansas, rounding us out.
Yeah, that's got to be like the hottest name in the fantasy streets right now. I think that
For
there
good
was
reason.
Jamie even said, "How is Mike Washington still on the board?" So if he ends up getting the draft capital, I'm going to have to roll with it. But I can already tell that this is probably going to be one of the guys that I'm going to be lower than consensus on.
Okay.
I guess I'll try to play devil's advocate here a little bit.
Go ahead, yeah.
I know he has the size and the speed, and I know that is very attractive, and I get that. Like, I understand. And full disclosure, I haven't looked in completely. I haven't gotten deep enough to where I'm seeing like why he wasn't on the field more often, if it was an injury issue, a skill issue, what the fact was. But whenever you look at a guy that he didn't have over 700 rushing yards until his second to last year. He didn't have over 1,000 rushing yards until his 5th year in college. He didn't hit over 6 yards per carry in a season until his 5th year in college. Excuse me. And then just looking at some of the other metrics, like I mentioned, he didn't hit over 1,000 total yards until year 5. His career yards per carry is 4.9. His career yards per reception, 6.7. His career yards per route run is 0.77. Very undesirable numbers.
Underwhelming,
So whenever you have a running back that it takes him that long to produce, and he needed to be a 5th-year guy before you really see him pop. Like, I know he has the physical traits that are very appealing, but whenever those production metrics are as bad as they are, that's a pretty big red flag to me. Now, the running back class as a whole, there's really not a lot to love. So I know where everybody's trying to find
might as well.
Something to be excited about, and somebody has to go off eventually. But his production profile, it worries me. Now, if a team believes in him enough to take him in the second round, then I'll shut up and I'll get with the program. But until we could, because at the end of the day, even though I like to believe that I can pick out things on film, things like that, I trust what NFL scouts see more than I do myself. Like, I trust they're all about eyeballs more than I do my own eyeballs. I need to be realistic here. So even if I don't like a guy, if an NFL team ends up taking him in the second round, clearly I might be missing something. But I don't know. His profile gives me concerns. And so I think that he might be getting steamed up a little bit too much right now.
So, well, Drew, just before we move on to the third round with you kicking it off, if you don't mind, I want to pose one quick situation to you. So, Looking back at the second round, who is the one player that you look at as pure upside pick? Like maybe a guy that went in this second round that maybe starts off a little slow out of the gate in year one, but year two and beyond, big fantasy contributor.
I think the auto pick in Team 8 with Singleton is really interesting. A lot of upside there. Obviously, there's the injury concerns with him, but I mean, you're talking about a high pedigree guy coming into college, and then a guy that had over 1,100 total yards right off the rip in his first year in college. He averaged over 5.5 yards per carry. He can catch the ball as well, 9.7 career yards per reception, 1.38 yards per route run. He's got the size that we want to look for. And so there's a lot to be excited about there as far as some potential upside. And so he would be the one probably that sticks out to me the most.
Okay. So I have a worry that Singleton he leaves a lot to be desired in the pure rushing, like technique department, because, well, first of all, he broke his foot at the Senior Bowl. But number two, aside from that, I think he has pretty poor ball carrier vision, in my opinion. So that way, I fear that he will only be a specialized pass catcher at the next level. Is that a fair criticism of mine, or do you see some of those similar things as well?
No, I think that's a very fair criticism. I think that's one of the reasons to be worried for sure. So I think that's very fair.
I think Singleton's a guy I'm going to take a lot of shots at. Now, I think he's a big boomer bust guy. If you're drafting him, it's because you love the high school profile, you love the fact that he had early hit rate, all that.
Yep.
But the end of the career is a little iffy. So he's a guy I'm targeting in the second for sure. He was a guy that, if you would have said last season, if he would have ended the draft, I would have told you he's 1-8 to 112 in the first round of mock drafts. So him going here in the second, if he would have got to me, I would have taken him absolutely at 210. I went with Antonio Williams. For people who don't know Antonio Williams, this is a clear, like, I'm a Devy college guy. He was awesome in college when he was healthy. I'm hoping he gets a good landing spot. He is my favorite pick right now in late seconds to early third round drafts right now in mocks. People are a little down on him, but I don't think the NFL is going to be down on him. The stats weren't there last year because of injury and stuff, but man, he's so good. He's so good when he's healthy. I just think he's that guy I think people want Zachariah Branch to be. I think that actually is Antonio Williams. I think he's the slot guy that everybody wants Branch to be.
Primarily a slot, right?
Yeah, I'm going to be grabbing him everywhere I can. And as we get this third round, I want to bring it up real quick. I showed it earlier. I'm going to show it again. Joe Harlow, one of our best here at Fantasy and Frames, he says, I've got 30 NFL draftable tight ends this year going. Ooh, great guys to take a shot. I agree with Joe here. This is the time of drafts, third, fourth round. I am absolutely loving tight ends. I think there's a deep group of tight ends this year. I don't think there's good as high end as last year. I think the high end guys were way above these guys, but I think this group is really good, and a group that could be in the next 2 or 3 years. You can look at and go, man, what a solid freaking group that was of studs. I love Sadiq, love Stowers. Claire, I think, is really good. We've got a bunch of other guys coming up here in the draft I think is good. We talked about Michael Trigg. He's on my list. Injuries from Texas I love. I also am a big Jolly guy from North Carolina State. So I think there's a lot of good tight ends to taking swings at here in the third, fourth round. But yeah, enough of that. Let's kick it off. Let Drew get picking again.
Speaking of third round, Drew, you want to start us off fresh here?
You could have just kept preaching the gospel, because the next guy up for me, especially since this is tight end premium, is going to be my tight end 4, which is Michael Trigg. So you kind of led right into it. Just a tad bit smaller than I'd like from a weight standpoint, only 240 pounds, but there's time for that to grow on. But I mean, he was productive. His best season, 694 receiving yards, 1.87 yards per route run, which is a solid number. You would typically like to see the yards per route run to be over 2, but Stowers is the only one, at least of the guys that I've charted in this class, that even hits that number. I think the 1.87 actually might be the second or third best yard per route run number among tight ends. And then in a position where athleticism is so extremely important, he flashed that plenty of times as well. Had over 13 yards per reception across his career as well. And so I'm glad I went tight end whenever I did, because apparently there wasn't going to be any left by the time I got back around in the 4th. So, but yeah, this run of tight ends, I honestly, I like all these guys, but Trigg was the next one up for me.
I think a bunch of these running backs and wide receivers are going to move up once we see where they get drafted. I just think there's such a cluster of them right now that I actually like all these tight ends better than the other running backs or wideouts on the board. So if I'm drafting right now, I'm just taking tight ends for the most part. But I do think we're going to see some guys sneak in here depending on possible landing spots where they hit. I won't say too many guys because I don't want to feel like everybody's like I'm calling out their guys. Somebody's going to steal them. But we'll talk about a few as I'm sure we're going to get some guys going here in the next couple picks.
Sorry, I'm just making my pick here.
Yeah, jump in there, see who you like. But I love it. Those 3 tight ends, like especially in tight end premium, one QB for sure. Super flex. Some of those guys are sliding just a bit more, but I think 3rd round has tight ends just written all over it this year. I think we're going to see a ton of guys, because I think we're going to see a run in the 3rd of mock drafts, because I do think in the real NFL draft, I think we're going to see a lot of these guys possibly go late 2nd to early, late 3rd round, and possibly early 4th. I really do, because it's one of those things. I always think the NFL, they take tight ends more than just fantasy players do. I mean, go back and look at Brenton Strange. When he came out of Penn State, he was not a guy that people were like all over, right? They're like, oh man, he didn't have production, but his RAS score was through the roof. They saw the talent. They knew he could do it. And we've seen that now in the NFL. I think we're going to see that out of a lot of these guys. Trigg, Jolly, injuries. Guys that have been good, especially Claire, guys that have been good in college, but just didn't put up those insane numbers in college that we don't see, honestly, most of the time out of tight ends anyway. I think these guys are going to have pretty decent upside in the NFL.
Yeah, no, I agree. We have there's some love for Aiden's pick. I want to get to that here in just a minute. But before we get into that, whenever I was asked who my the upside pick in the 2nd round, I mentioned Singleton, and I didn't want to pick JT's guy 2 rounds in a row. But I will say this: that was about the only thing stopping me from saying Williams was my other, outside of Singleton, the other upside pick. I love where you got him there. I talked about how I thought Chris Bell was a little high for my liking. He's my wide receiver 9 right now. I've actually got Antonio Williams as my wide receiver 10. And so, you've got a guy that is one spot below Bell in my personal rankings that you got almost a full round later. So I thought that was a steal.
That's interesting, because the NFL, so we're the opposite, where we think Williams is a better version of Zachariah Branch, and I think the NFL is going to have it flip between the two. So that's
I think Antonio Williams is a much more complete player. I think he's a better route runner. I think he's a better overall. He might not. He's still got quickness to his game. He might not be as fast, but I think at the wide receiver position, honestly, I think speed is overrated. Like I care much more about what are your hands like? Are you a good route runner? Those things mean more to me than what's your 40 time look like. And so I love Williams. I love the value there, and that's probably going to be a guy that I'm targeting quite a bit. But while this 3rd round finishes up, Aiden, there was a lot of talk here. Can't believe Fields is still there, because I have him top 17. Fields this late is a steal. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about Malachi Fields and why you were happy to see him fall to you in the 3rd round there?
Number one, like, I'm a diehard Notre Dame fan, so I'm not sure how he fell this far either. But number 2,
Okay.
I just want to touch on his skill set.
Yep.
Is he the most flashiest, athletic, gonna separate downfield juice in an instant? No. But on a weekly basis, Malachi Fields will make some of the most acrobatic catches that you've ever seen. Once that ball is in the air, short, intermediate, especially downfield, his catch radius is insane. His catch radius is top shelf. I think he's going to be a wide receiver 2 in the NFL for years to come. And because of that, I think he's one of the most safest wide receiver prospects in this entire draft class.
Okay, interesting. I have him down at wide receiver 16. I'm a little bit lower on him.
That's okay.
So that's part of why he was still on the board, I guess, is because one of the people in this draft room is lower than consensus on him. It is a little bit concerning seeing how long it took him to get going in college, and he really wasn't a
6
factor.
years, yeah.
And he wasn't really
player.
He really wasn't a factor until year 3. He whenever he went over 800 yards, he had 5 touchdowns, but only 1.94 career yards per route run. It's leave some to be desired there for sure. But I mean, he has good size, like you said, he has good hands. And if there's any truth to some of the mock drafts that have been going on out there, it seems like he could be pretty high up on some NFL draft boards. I don't know how much steam there, like how much there really is to that, but
so it sounds like you wouldn't agree with him going
even
that high.
No, I don't think he's a first round NFL talent. Now, again, like I said, if the NFL disagrees and that's where he ends up going, I'll reevaluate.
Move him up. Yeah.
But just trying to judge on my own, I don't think he's a first round guy.
That is completely fair. Quick run through as we head into our final round of the night. Michael Trigg. So this is tight end premium, hence the first 3 picks are all tight ends. Michael Trigg, tight end Baylor. 302, Justin Jolie, tight end, NC State. 303, Jack Endries, tight end, Texas. And then we get away from that position with 304, Malachi Fields, who we just touched on at length, wide receiver Notre Dame for me. 305, Jacoby Lane. I was debating between the two, if I'm being honest. 306, Kyle did make the leap with Ty Simpson. It's probably the only second QB we'll see in this rookie mock tonight. 307, we did have Eric McAllister, who's like just a slot receiver. We'll see how that turns out in the NFL. 308, this is kind of the Skylar Bell thing. Ted Hurst from Georgia State, very small school gem. 309, Damon Claiborne, who I'm a big fan of, is a huge sleeper running back personally. 310, Adam Randall, who it's a cool college story, switching from receiver to running back.
Yeah.
I don't know personally how that shakes out in the NFL. I'm personally kind of lukewarm on him at best. 311, CJ Daniels, great playoff run with Miami. And then 312, Le'Veon Moss, who, again, I fear will just be a jag in the NFL, but rounding out the 3rd round.
Can I say something about my Adam Randall pick real quick? The reason I like him here is he was a pretty good wideout.
Yeah.
Then he moved. And then the thing is, I was not high on Tyrone Tracy. I'm just going to tell you that. I was not high on him. He's been
NFL
better.
wasn't either, yeah.
He's been better than I thought he would be. I think Adam Randall's a much better version of Tyrone Tracy. So for my thing is, like, if you can get some pretty decent production out of Tyrone Tracy, if Adam Randall can get a decent landing spot, to me, as a late 3rd rounder and a 1 QB, if you haven't taken running back and you're like, hey, I need to just get a running back on my bench that might have a shot to do something in a PPR league, which this is 1 PPR, that's where I like Randall. To me, if he gets on the right team, I feel like he could be used really well as like a 3rd down back, a guy that
he's huge.
You wouldn't be like looking to start him all the time, but you'd be like, oh, hey man, when I have bye weeks and injuries, could I slide him in as a flex play or RB2? I kind of like it. So I'm in on Randall there. Also, California 5 School Cool says Randall ever heard of Antonio Gibson? I actually like Antonio Gibson too. If he
I was
stopped
such a big
fumbling,
Antonio Gibson
if
guy.
he would not
Man,
fumble,
me too. It's burned everybody.
it's like he just every time he fumbled, he just pissed his coaches off. But man, Antonio Gibson, I liked him a lot. I think Randall could be a bigger version of him. So he's a guy at the late third round. This is where I'm willing to take upside on guys, right? I want to take a guy that like I could see where he could find a path to relevance. And I'm looking at wide receiver. Maybe if Lane got to me, I like Lane. My biggest issue with him is depth. Like, you know what I mean? Can he get any separation? Now, I'm not always the biggest separation guy. I remember when I touted George Pickens to the moon and people said I was crazy. He was never going to be an NFL player because he couldn't get separation. And I said it didn't matter because he catches everything. It doesn't matter. He doesn't need separation. He catches everything. So if Lane can turn into that type of guy where he doesn't need to create a lot of separation because he can go up and get the ball over guys, then I can see it. But he is, to me, I like the upside of him. But, man, I think he's also one of those guys that's like, ooh, you're taking a real shot that he ends up being a complete dud if it doesn't work out.
Could go both ways, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Actually, before I show some love to a pick in this round, Aiden, do you want to recap the round in full before I jump the gun here?
I think I did that.
Aiden just did it. Yeah, he just did it. Yeah, he just did it. So
yeah, I think we were talking, so sorry about that.
I think we're ready. Yeah, he did it right before you jumped in on your thing. So I think we're ready to go here for round 4.
Go ahead with what you were going to say.
Before we go to round 4, there's one we've kind of been, well, I say all of us kind of have been picking on a couple of Jorge's picks here through the first 2 rounds. I just want to highlight that I think Jorge absolutely nailed his third round pick with Eric McAllister. That he's probably going to end up being I don't know if that even ends up sticking, but he's going to end up being one of my favorite later picks. I think right now I have him as my wide receiver 13. And whenever you look, I mean, I know there's the character concerns. He's got some worries there, but he's got really good size. He broke out early, 19-year-old breakout age.
That'll do it. Yeah.
Over 800 yards and 5 touchdowns by his second year. Career 2.86 yards per route run and 0.122 first downs per route run. Like, his profile is gorgeous, and that's a guy that I think is really flying under the radar and should have went earlier than he did. So I thought that he nailed that pick. And that McAllister is a good example of, so last year in the middle rounds, if I was trying to decide between a running back or receiver, or running back, I almost always just went with the running back because I love the running back class last year so much. And this year it's been basically flip-flopped. Once I get to the second, third round, if I'm trying to decide between a receiver or a running back, I'm just going to go with the receiver because I love the receiver. But in this instance, there's actually a running back on the board that I like quite a bit. And that is Jamari Taylor. And so let's see, there are
don't you dare.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So he's going to come off the board as the running back 11. He's my running back 7 right now.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's a no-brainer for me at this point. You know, he's career 5.1 yards per carry. It was for me too. Career 9.1 yards per reception, 1.39 yards per route run. And then whenever you look at the draft-eligible running backs that have at least 100 carries, he was 8th in missed tackles forced, 10th in yards after the carry. I think his profile is extremely solid. And so once you get outside of those kind of the consensus, I guess I would say the consensus top 6, whenever you talk about Jeremiah Love, Jonah Coleman, Emmett Johnson, Jadarian Price, and then the 2 Penn State guys, if you consider those like your consensus top 6, I know Mike Washington Jr. has entered that discussion for a lot of people, but Jamari Taylor is actually my favorite running back once you get outside of that group. So the fact that I was able to get my running back 7 here at the front of the 4th round, I'm very happy with that.
Yeah,
I'm going to say exactly what you said. I loved last year's running back class. I was trading in everywhere to get every running back I could last year because I loved that class. I absolutely love that class. Yeah. I'm with you. I'm down on this class. I'm taking wideout or tight end over running back most of the time. If there's a question mark, Taylor, I think to me, not only that we share a fantastic last name together, but he is moving up for me. There's a lot of spots where I think I would take him, like, honestly, after Allen and Singleton, I would be right there with Taylor and Randall, depending on who my team is. You know what I'm saying? I would be right there with both those guys. I think a little more. I think Taylor might be a safer true running back. I like Randall if you're in a PPR league and where that fact that he could maybe move around to a little bit of everything. So I kind of lean on him there. But I do like Taylor. He's moving up for me. Jam Miller's a guy that I'm interested in. I'm just not sure what I think of him totally. Because I watched him a ton in college. He looked good at times, but man, he looked like nothing at other times. So that was tough. And then I think when you get this fourth round wide receiver, I think Joe put it up here. He said Thompson versus Burks, tough call. I agree. I've been a guy that's been way down on Deion Burks over a lot of people the last couple years. But I think Thompson is a very interesting call when you go to Burks there. Connors is another interesting guy that just went to the auto pick at Team 5. He's another guy, caught a lot of balls at Houston, was pretty good at Rice, pretty good at Houston last year. To me, he's like a less of a version of Adam Randall. So, like, if I didn't get Adam Randall, I would consider taking, like, Connors at the end of the fourth round. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, if I want a guy that plays running back but has a really good receiving profile, could do a little bit of both, that's where I'm like, I feel like if he got on the right team, you know, he's never a guy you would play every week, but he's a guy that could be nice in deep leagues where you could play him as a flex or injuries, bye weeks. You could maybe play him as an RB2 and hope he gets you like 7 to 10 points. Like, I feel like he could be that type of player on the right team.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I like Connors.
Oh, 406 we're on.
So let me ask you this while these next few picks come in. Let me ask you this: with this being a one quarterback draft, do you guys think another quarterback should get drafted?
No, it's weak as is.
I'll tell you right now, if it gets to me, I'm taking one. I'm not going to tell you who I'm taking, but there is a guy that I really like. There is a guy I really like who was my QB1 entering this season. So I am going to take a shot on him because he's my QB1 entering the season. He had a down year this year. But even in Superflex, I'm definitely I'm definitely taking a shot on him in the third round. If this was Superflex, I would have taken him absolutely at 310. But in one QB, I didn't think it was worth it. I was like, I'm going to wait another round. But I will take a guy if he gets to me, if somebody doesn't steal him before then. Jorge, I got one pick until Jorge steals him from me, and then we'll go.
It's going to be – so the guy that I think you're going to end up taking, he pre-draft, he's actually my QB2. Now that Chambliss is going back, I like – I'm not a huge Ty Simpson guy. I'm not
either at all. Not at all. But
I have this guy we're teasing that you or somebody's going to be taking shortly, and Ty Simpson in the same tier. And if Simpson does indeed end up getting first round draft capital, and Simpson and Mendoza are the only two first round quarterbacks this year, like a lot of people are projecting. Then I'll have to go back to the drawing board. But just me personally, I don't think Simpson's a first round talent. I think he's kind of being driven up a little bit by this poor class and just the demand for the position. But in a normal class, I don't think that Ty Simpson's a first round guy. And so I'm not a very big believer.
I like Ty Simpson. I like this other guy more. So I'm with you. He's my number 2 and Simpson's my 3. The only reason I would change the draft would be because Simpson goes earlier. To me, Ty Simpson feels like a Jordan Love prospect coming out. Like, people like Love, but not everybody was all over him. People liked him, but everybody knew, like, if you take this guy in the late first round, like, he's a 2 or 3 years you need to, like, develop him. And I think that's Ty Simpson. If Ty Simpson gets to a team that knows that and understands that and says, hey, we got a veteran, let's get this guy. I think this is why everybody thinks he's going to the Rams. Because that would be a great landing spot, a good offense. I don't think it's going to happen. Drew, I know you're a Rams guy. Right? Here's my thing is Rams, you're still in the mix. So I don't think you have to go and take a QB right now. But I think that's why he gets mocked there constantly is people think, oh, he could play behind Stafford for 1 or 2 more years. And then he has a great, head coach and offense, and he'll be the guy. So I knew Jorge was going to steal him. I knew Jorge was going to steal just as Jorge knows me too well. And he's going to steal him from me. It's fine. He steals them in the real draft. I'm coming for you, Jorge.
Now we're gonna have a problem.
Giving you a little smile in the comments too. I love this. I love this comparison. Simpson is this year's Trubisky. Just from like an inexperienced type of thing. You know, Trubisky didn't have a lot of games under his belt. Whatever you look at Ty Simpson, only 525 career college passing attempts. I've just maybe the fact that I have been so in on guys like Anthony Richardson and Trey Lance in the past who didn't have a lot of attempts under their belt, and I got burnt because from those guys. Maybe that is also kind of tainting how I feel about, even like, I'm not comparing them as players, just more so the experience level that they had in college. Maybe that's where some of my worries are. But then on the flip side of that, I'm kind of starting to fall in love with Cole Payton too, and he has virtually no experience, and so I can't use that as a complete crutch.
This is what ends up happening, right? You're like, oh, I love this guy, but I don't like that guy. And
Yeah.
you're like, oh, it's the same reason. But I think I agree with you. I think Simpson, people forget was he the number 4 quarterback in his senior class? I think it was. I mean, huge recruit. He just hasn't had. He's a son of a coach. The reason I'm bringing that up, his dad is the head coach at University of Tennessee Martin. My buddy, his son is a freshman QB at University of Tennessee Martin. He got to work out with Ty Simpson this summer. He was like, it was unreal. This guy's awesome. He's like, this guy freaking chucks the ball. I think Ty Simpson's better than he's getting credit for, only in the fact that the problem is he hasn't played a lot of games. So I agree with you there. Yeah. He looked really good early on. He got the knee injury, and he kind of really struggled near the end of the year. So this is why I think I like Ty Simpson as an upside draft pick. I think he could be a guy, if you're willing to sit on for 2 years at least, I like it. Man, I think if someone drafts him thinking he's going to come in and start year 1 and be good, that's where I'm really I might be out, because I'm like, this could be terrible. Like, I like him if he goes and like, he can back up and I can get a decent draft capital on him. I'll take him a little bit later because he's going to sit for a couple years. But man, if he goes, like, say the Browns took him like in the first round, late first round, or like somehow he dropped and they took him like top of the second round. I don't know if I freaking love that, because like, is he going to get forced? I mean, I just don't love the whole situation there. How does it happen? Right. I want a clear-cut plan. And as someone who said this over and over again about Anthony Richardson, I'm on the clock now, and I'll shut up here in a second. I thought there was a clear-cut plan for the Colts with Anthony Richardson, and we found out there was no real good plan. It was an absolute disaster.
Nightmare.
And I think if they would have stuck to the plan that everyone knew was like, hey, this guy needs 2 or 3 years to develop. You got to play him behind someone. You got to give him some plays, but you can't just like throw him in there. And then when he goes in there, it's not great. You're like, well, man, this guy's rough. Well, yeah, we know that. Yeah. We know that. So I think if teams look at these guys correctly, I think Ty Simpson and Nussmeier, both coaches' kids, I do think both those guys can be successful NFL players. I think they have to take the Kirk Cousins route. They have to play backup for a couple years, show their worth, get in when somebody gets hurt. They can play, have some good games, show that they can actually be an NFL quarterback, and then maybe that second team they're on ends up being the team that they sign with, do really well down the line. I just don't see either one of those guys hitting early. I'm willing to take a shot on holding them for a while, especially in leagues with bigger rosters. But man, yeah, it is going to be tough to like take those guys, especially if you think, oh man, they're going right now.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I would rather the Rams send the Colts a day 2 or a couple day 3 picks for Anthony Richardson before I would want them to draft Ty Simpson with one of their first round picks this year. Like, if they want to go that route with investing in a future quarterback, send the Colts some picks and let's see what happens with Richardson. I'd rather them go that route than spending a first on Ty Simpson, but we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, the Anthony Richardson thing was always hilarious because it's just like, let's draft this guy that we know is a work in progress, and then now we're going to act completely shocked whenever he isn't a finished product as soon as we put him out on the field. Like that never made sense to me. But so I'm an Anthony Richardson fan. I've already talked about that, so I'm rooting for him to hopefully get a fresh start and see if he can still make some noise somewhere. But
I would love to see him get another shot, because obviously it feels like the Colts are out on him at this point. I will say another one of my sneaky 4th round picks I love late that got snaked from me. Kevin Coleman from Mizzou. I love Kevin Coleman as a late pick. He went to 4-6. I was going to take Nuss or Coleman, depending on who got me here. And then they both went. So I went off. I also like Oscar Delp, another guy really talented, went to Georgia, just never really got in the full mix as far as like getting receptions, but super talented dude who's one of the top in his class. So I really like Delp. I think he could be sneaky good. Since Delp went as well, you gotta love getting snaked right in the 4th round. People stealing your guy. I took Gillenborg from Wyoming. Not crazy numbers, but a team that didn't throw the ball a lot, but he was one of their better receivers, good sized player. I think he has a shot in a tight end premium league to be somebody that I'm going to stash on my taxi for a year or two. And then maybe I see him like year 3 pop off where he can be a guy that is a possible guy that I can play, especially if you're in multiple tight end leagues or like higher tight end premium where you can play him in a flex. I don't think you see anything out of him early, but I love this area to take like shots on tight ends that you can just wait on a couple of years.
So let me ask you this before we wrap this up, because there's a tight end name I'm very interested in seeing what you guys think about that didn't go off the board. Old boy from Ole Miss, Daquan Wright. What do you guys think about him? Because I've got him now. I haven't gotten to the tape of all the tight ends, but man, whenever like we're talking about a guy that had 14.2 yards per reception, 8.4 yards after the catch, 1.82 yards per route run. Like he seems like a fantasy dream.
He's a big dude too. Like
he can
move at that time. I'm telling you, this
third,
4th round. You're right. This 3rd, 4th round is gonna be tight end crazy, right? I like Wright a ton. I like Delp. I like Gilmore. I mean, I even like Klein from Michigan. Roush from Stanford is a guy. I even think Sharp from LSU is a slightly underrated guy. McCree, I think a guy that no one's talking about right now from USC. He's got a profile that is a much better NFL profile than college profile. He's another guy I really like. So I'm telling you, I think, like Joe said earlier, I think there's a ton of draftable tight ends. And if you're in any kind of premium, I think you jump in. Kevin Coleman. He was for football, guys. Kevin Coleman's now the Debbie Royale, actually.
Yeah, doing his own thing.
Kevin, I know Devin. Yeah, doing his own thing. Was there. Great work. But yeah, dude, Coleman, I think underrated guy, St. Louis kid, who actually played with Luther Burden. He was older than Luther Burden. He was they were at Christian Brothers in St. Louis together for a while. I like Coleman, man. I think he's going to surprise some people. I think if he gets on a team that needs some slot help, I think he's a guy that can get in there. If you watch his tape, real solid. I mean, really solid. Now, the quarterback play this last year for Mizzou was iffy.
Pretty
guys got hurt. The offense just never really got in sync. But man, if you go watch one game of Kevin Coleman, go back and watch him against Vandy. He had some really great plays in that game, even though the defense is dominated. He had some really nice plays in that game. So he's a guy, definitely 4th round, I'm going to have my eyes on.
Yeah. Quickly, I'll go through one final recap here, and then we'll throw out a few big high-level takeaways, if you will, from each of us. At the 401, Drew kicked us off, who I was hoping would follow me, with an explosive RB, Jamari Taylor from Virginia. At 402, we got Jam Miller, who has been a big debate behind the scenes here at Fantasy and Frames with his first name. At 403, we got Brendan Thompson. JT talked about his love for him. At 404, I talked about Deion Burks. He's very small, 5'9", 175, but he's got that Devonta Smith thing going for him where he's got that uncanny contested catch ability for his size, he shouldn't be a good contested catcher, but somehow he's an insane contested catcher for his size. At 405, we got, Dean Connors. You guys talked about his high-level receiving upside. At 406, we got Kevin Coleman, slot receiver from Missouri. At 407, Jorge took a few spots in front of JT, Garrett Nussmeier. At 408, another tight end pick, Oscar Delp. At 409, Dane Key from Nebraska. At 410, JT got his final tight end in there, and John Michael Gillienborg from Wyoming. At 411, and then we rounded out with a couple likely day 3 NFL draft picks, and Josh Cameron from Baylor, and then at 412, Reggie Virgil from Texas Tech. So, gentlemen, JT, I want to start with you. Looking at a high level, macro level, who is your favorite team, 1 to 4, top to bottom, right off the bat?
Look at this real quick.
Yeah.
Obviously can't say mine, even though I love my team.
Nope,
love who I got. I know. I'm just kidding. Man, talent-wise, man, I have to be honest, in a 1 QB, it changes things up just a little bit where you think value is. I actually, man, between Derek and Joe at 1-2 and 1-3, I really like what both those guys did there. Tate and Tyson, I think you could take either or. Derek went with Surratt. Joe went with Mendoza, which even in a 1 QB, if you're getting the number 1 overall pick at 2-3, I feel like that's good value. Even if it is 1 QB, I think that's really solid value. I love Jolly Andrews both. So, like, to me, that's like Tate and Tyson. They just cross each other out because I feel like they're equal. And then Jay Miller and Thompson, 2 guys I like. I think they're both guys you have to, you're going to take a shot on. They can totally give you nothing, but I do like the upside of both of them. So I know I know we said one team, but I like Derek and Joe's team at 2 and 3. I thought were very equal teams, very similar with very nice value for both of them.
Yeah, for my personal team, Drew, I got to shout you out here, man. I loved your team build. In round 1, you started off right off the bat with Jeremiah Love. I explained way earlier how special of a prospect I think he is. In the second round, you get a very explosive, quintessential high upside fantasy asset in Omar Cooper. Third round, you keep it going with Michael Trigg, who is a true move piece, chess piece, undersized a little, but true move piece still at the tight end position. And then lastly, I was saying how I wanted Jamari Taylor to fall a few spots to me. So, of course, I would love that Jamari Taylor pick.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I think for me, the one that stuck out was I'm in agreement with JT here. The Derek at the second slot, getting Carnell Tate and Elijah Surratt. I think those were just 2 home run picks. I love the tight end in the 3rd round. The only pick I'm not in love with is the 4th round pick, but it's a 4th round pick. Like, yeah. I mean,
whatever. It works out fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it did. But those first 2 picks are extremely solid. I think you're getting 2 plug and play receivers for your fantasy team there in the first 2 rounds. And so I like what Derek did in that 2 slot quite a bit. Yeah, I like that. That was the other team that stuck out a lot to me.
All right, everybody. Well, that was fun. That'll do it for our 4-round 1 QB format, tight end premium, of course, as always. Mock draft. Once again, as a final reminder, please check out all of our latest amazing article work over at fantasyandframes.com. It is most important this time of year that we have previews and breakdowns for all positions, whether from an IDP, redraft, and/or dynasty perspective. We got you covered on all fronts. And our first batch of rankings is live between our 5 main rankers, analysts at the forefront here, and then we combine for a nice, concise, clean projection consensus, if you will. Please come back and hang out with us tomorrow night, Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, where we will be discussing how to rebuild for success in Dynasty Fantasy Football. Between you two, let's go run the frames quick. Drew, I want to start with you, shout you out quick. Let everyone know, let the good people know where they can find you on social media, what you got going on right now, anything you want to put out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Over on Twitter at Drew3MR, we're going to be keeping up with this rookie class as much as possible to keep these rankings updated. So eagerly waiting the combine and the NFL draft so we can kind of get the final puzzle pieces for these prospects to get a better idea of how they're going to sort out. But going to be updating my rookie rankings throughout the entire process. So make sure to stay locked into the website for those as they get updated, as we all will do. And then Fourth and Frames, our redraft show, we are almost right at 1 month
That's right.
until we come back. As soon as NFL free agency plays out and we have something to react to for redraft purposes, we're going to be right back on the hamster wheel, going round and round to talk redraft. So we're about a month out from that. So looking forward to that as well. So the Fantasy and Frames Wednesday will be back in full circle here in just a month's time.
Crowded night for good reasons though. JT, what do you got going on right now?
Yeah, I've got all kinds of rookie articles. You can call them rookies, you can call them prospects. We usually call them prospects until they officially get drafted and they're rookies. So I got all kinds of prospect articles over on DLF. I've got more rookie stuff coming after the combine. I do some huge series, for DLF. I do a running back ranking series. I do a offense and a defensive breakdown of the combine. So I'll have that coming to you here in the next couple weeks as well. Fantasy Pros got my rookie rankings on there. Those should be on Fantasy and Frames on the site either tonight. If they're not on there yet, they should be on there soon. So check those out. And then also, if you're a member of DLF, you go there. I have my top 150 IDP Dynasty rankings. I have my top 75 Devy rankings if you're looking for guys for next year's rookie draft. And then tonight I put in my IDP rankings for top 25 IDP guys, which me and Jorge will be going over here soon on Shoot the Gap as we start doing some IDP rookie mock drafts. I love to do both. I love both. I'm one of those guys, I like to do both because I have so many combined leagues. So it works out well both ways. So awesome to do this. Had fun. 1 QB, like I said, it's dying out. But like Drew said earlier in the show, my home league, we voted on going super flex and we stay 1 QB because some of the guys in my league are in other leagues with me that are super flex or 2 QB. They're like, let's stay traditional. Let's stay 1 QB. So there is still a lot of 1 QB leagues out there. So you can follow me on the X at JT Orange. Like I said, I play in every type of league. So if you got any questions about something, hit me up. I'm probably in a league and have some kind of thought about that. So thanks a lot, guys. It was a great show.
Yeah, in terms of myself, just quickly going over it here, you can follow me on Twitter/X at AWagner13. Always taking questions and thoughts over there. Fun conversations as always. And literally pretty much right before we jumped on here tonight, I dropped an article on the site, fantasyandframes.com once again, going over and previewing, this is part 1, part 2 will drop in a couple days, previewing the top free agent RBs and where they could land. But I put an interesting spin on it. I look at 2 different avenues / paths, if you will. What would the 2026 fantasy outlook be for the player if they stayed with their current team? And what would the 2026 fantasy outlook be for that player if they went elsewhere and switched teams, and what that specific landing spot would be? So a fun little twist for you all there. Anyway, for myself, for Drew, for JT, have a great night, everybody.